All right, so we're back with episode, I think it's three now, of the coronavirus, corona quarantine conversations. And I am here with my good friend and Plainfield resident now, LaQuin Alexander. And just for those who don't know about LaQuin, she is a producer, she's a writer and a director, but she is also working actively in the industry. So I know that she has been impacted by this quarantine. And so, what's up, LaQuinn?
What's going on? I see you in the nice weather. It looks beautiful down there.
Right, right. It's kind of warm. I got on shorts, but nevertheless, I'm kind of stuck here in Tampa. We're
Mhm,
neighbors. We live down the street from each other. Um,
mhm,
and I came down here, like I was telling you a minute ago, for some family business and ended up getting caught down here. So I'm trying
mhm.
to make the best of it because I don't really have my stuff. I don't have, I'm kind of segmented. I'm separated from my home and not,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
have my family here, but my sons are in New Jersey and Plainfield. So, it's weird. So I'm trying to right now create um, and stay on track and stay on the move. And so this conversation is part of that. Now, tell me what you're doing right now to sort of deal with the quarantine, because I know you're a
Ooh.
creative bird. What are you doing right
Yeah, so I'm just trying to, I guess, maximize on my time. Really trying to really get some writing projects that I haven't had time to get to done. Really trying to think of new ways to create, since filmmaking is such a collaborative process, but we can't really be all around each other right now. So some projects I was working on has been put on hold. So I'm just trying to, stay safe, stay away from people, stay inside, and just try and figure out what the next couple of months are going to look like as we try and deal with this pandemic. No one really kind of knows, so just trying to use my time wisely. Have a lot of downtime, which is good, but just trying to make sure I maximize so that when we do get back to normal, I have stuff ready to go and I can just kind of jump back into everything.
now? Word. Now I know you do a lot of indie filmmaking. Um, your film Empty was in the second annual Queen City Film Fest last year and rated very highly with audiences. Unfortunately, it ended up in a weird time slot, but that wasn't to speak on the quality of your work. The quality of that production was amazing. Can you talk a little bit about that, and then also talk about what you were working on before
Mhm.
the quarantine sort of like shut everything down?
Gotcha. So Empty was a part of a film challenge. It was called the Women's Weekend Film Challenge. And basically, the premise behind it is that they got all these women in the industry together and they put you on teams, and then you go out and you make a film. All the equipment is donated, production insurance is donated, and all those kinds of things. And it's supposed to help foster kind of network and community among women in the industry because there's such little representation. So we have, I think our cohort produced about, like, I think 6 films, all cast and crew, all women. So that was really exciting to be a part of. And then what came out of that was Empty. I don't think any of us really expected it to be as great as it is, because it was shot over what it was written, shot, and edited over 3 days. So we were really just shocked how we were able to kind of move things really quickly. Um, and then moving on from Empty, I wrote, and I'm executive producing and directing a pilot for an idea that I've had for a pretty long time. So before the quarantine, I was in the midst of launching a crowdfunding campaign for this pilot, because it's kind of like a otherworldly kind of project. So it's going to take a lot of time to construct this world from scratch. And I was just gearing up to do. I did all my casting for my main characters. I'm in the middle of signing on a pretty known name to the project. And then the pandemic hit and it kind of put everything on halt. We were about to do a promotional shoot. I'm even now trying to figure out how to get some footage for a film that I directed last December to my editor. So I need to get to the post office and mail it to her. So that's pretty much what I was working on. And the crowdfunding campaign is a little bit on hold right now, because even though this is a perfect time to launch it because everyone is looking for content, it's also not the greatest because we're also dealing financially. People just We're all holding on to our money really tight because we just don't know what's going to happen. So things are moving pretty slow. So that's why I'm directing my attention to really just kind of working on some other scripts and things that have been sitting, because I can't really move on anything else um,
Mm.
right now.
And
So.
that's a beautiful sort of process that you've outlined for us. Um, and I want to get a little bit deeper into that because as creative people, we get antsy. We get,
Mhm.
this is hard. This is not that
Yeah,
easy to just be
yeah.
sitting still and in the house. Now, what I would add to that is that I'm sort of a homebody anyway.
Yeah,
I'm
me
a bit
too.
of a recluse. I spend a lot of time at home around my family. I'm not the kind of let's go out and bubble and shit. And I seen your Instagram. You be out there. You be out there fast. But
Sometimes, not all the time. I'm a homebody too, but I get out sometimes.
but I'm really like under the rug kind of bug. And but but talk a little bit about the impact that you've seen because I know you've worked on some big network projects. Were you working on a network show when the quarantine hit, or and what about your contacts and other people that how are they doing?
Yeah, so I wasn't working on any big shows when the quarantine hit. I've been kind of really for the past couple months just really been focusing on my own project, so that's been pretty cool. But I have spoken to some of my contacts in the industry, and it's interesting because, like I said, filmmaking is such a collaborative process. So right now, it just so happened that the last show that I was working on is kind of they're on their off season, so it's easy for everyone to work from home. So a lot of people are working from home, having production meetings over Zoom, doing those kinds of things. No one is really hiring right now because no one really knows when productions are going to get pushed back. So it's going to be interesting to see how a lot of all of our favorite shows get pushed back because right now, a lot of things are pre-recorded. So TV and entertainment and film is kind of going as normal. But what happens when you can't film new episodes of shows because we're still in a pandemic? And do you risk your crew's life to film these episodes? Because if anyone has ever been on a film set, there is no such thing as social distancing. So it's going to be interesting to see one how long this lasts, but then also to see how this affects media. And I think people will start to understand just how important media is in our society when they start to see how this pandemic affects that. So it'll be interesting.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, it's this has really been a very interesting ride from how media impacts our mentality and our
Mhm.
psychology to how it influences us to go out and run and buy all the toilet paper in a store
I know. It's
and
like,
skip over the soap and the soup. The
I
people
know
aren't
the
even buying
food.
soap or soup, but they just bought all the toilet paper in the world
Yeah,
because
I
that's
get
going to
it.
be their saving grace. I don't get it, but that's a testament to the power of media. Um,
Hmm.
you know, and just to sort of wrap it up, uh,
Hmm.
do you have any kind of process that you go through when you wake up in the morning? Since it's like I don't have to go to job, I don't have to,
Yeah.
work from home. Talk about your work from home process.
Gotcha. So I've worked from home before, which is like usually my preferred method, especially when I'm working on independent projects. I try and work from home as much as possible and go to the office sometimes. So I've had some experience with this, but what I find helped me the most through everything is I wake up, shower, brush my teeth. I try my best to get dressed for the day, even if it's just like comfy clothes, like maybe some sweatpants and a shirt or something like that. But I try my best to look different every day so I don't fall into just sitting in my pajamas all day. And I think that helps with productivity. I open all the windows in the house to let sunlight in so I don't feel so confined. And I make a to-do list. I think it's important. Even if it's just housework or whatever it is, even if you have one of those jobs where you really just don't have anything to do right now, I still say it's great to make a to-do list, whether it's watch this show or just so you can kind of know how the day is going, because it is very easy to just sit and waste time just thinking and not doing anything and getting wrapped up in what's going on with the pandemic and social and anxiety, and then being inside and confined, you start to deal with increased depression. And so I think it's important to just always have something to do, whether it's learning a new skill, keeping a to-do list, and putting yourself on some type of routine. So that's what I do. I try and stick to a routine every day. um, And yeah, I try and do something new every day. So if I was doing, I'm in school right now getting a second master's degree for public administration. So if I was like doing homework for that for one day, then the next day I'm like, okay, all creative. And then the next day I'm like, okay, it's housework. You know, I try and switch it up so it kind of feels like time is passing instead of it all just being like I'm stuck in the house. So
I love it. You're using your time so productively, so wisely. You're parceling it out into different spaces that are going to reap benefit no matter what you do.
I agree.
That's such a powerful message. And I was going to ask you finally, what were your words of wisdom and advice for anybody that might be watching this video? I think that part of the reason why I'm putting this together is to sort of get a collective conversation going about how each one of us is dealing with this isolation and what we can all learn from one another during this isolation process. But I think you summed it up. But is there anything else that you want to add to
Um,
that?
yeah, I would say just keep yourself busy, like learn a new skill. Just don't just lay in bed all day and sleep because it's not going to be well. Especially I suffer from depression and anxiety, so for me it's like I need to keep my mind moving, and I feel like a lot of creators, we are creatives because our mind is always moving. So I don't care if you just like start a YouTube channel just for the quarantine, you know, just so you could just feel like you're creating and you're not being stagnant. I think that'll I think because I think we fall into depression when we feel like we're not doing anything, and right now we're not doing anything. So even if it's filming little home videos around your house, get a TikTok. I know everybody's on TikTok now, but I think it's just a mental thing, giving people something to do. So just have something to do, and we'll all be fine.
Right. Well, that is it. That is, thank you so much, LaQuin, for joining me. I still haven't even come up with the name of this project. So this episode, I'm going to call this episode Time's Up, Conversations During the Quarantine, or Quarantine Conversations. But let's stay tuned to one another. And you can follow LaQuin on Facebook at,
So actually follow me on Instagram.
mm,
Instagram is better at LaQuin Alexander. So that's LaQuin Alexander. So my full name. And then from there you can find all my other social media.
there it is. We had a little bit of a break there. I don't know what's going on with the internet, but the forces that be are telling us to cut it down. So, and again, I'm Lamar Maxon from the Queen City Film Fest and Nonstop Show Group. You can always follow at Nonstop Show Group on Facebook and Instagram. And also, please check out the Queen City Film Festival Quarantine Theater, where we are free streaming films that have appeared at the Queen City Film Festival in the past. Today, we're releasing Heroin Film, which is a Nonstop Show Group production. So check it out on Facebook only. And that's it for the third episode of Conversations During the Quarantine. Peace.